Welcome to the After Hours Lounge on 1620 The Zone, the 1620 The Zone app, and 1620thezone.com. When 6A to 6P isn't enough, the boys have you covered. Here's Jimmy Allen
and John Schreiner.
Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Welcome inside the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Bellevue University. If you're looking for the ideal college experience this fall, head over to bellevue.edu, register for classes, and become a Bruin. Tonight, we got a great show lined up for you. John Schreiner out tonight. You can catch him on ESPN Plus tonight, covering the Creighton women's softball game. Dan Campanen sitting shotgun tonight. Brody Heidemann producing the show. We got a good show lined up for you. How do we grade our favorite team's draft and their biggest rival? Spoiler alert, Brody. I'm not going with the Rams for my biggest rival. I'm giving the Seahawks because I know you're going to be talking about the Rams tonight. How does Nebraska's defense need to improve in 2025? I did a really deep dive on this, and I didn't think I was going to have a lot to grade on the curve. Spoiler alert, we're going to do this tomorrow night for the offense as well. And despite being the number 18 ranked defense in the country, I think there are some big strides that Nebraska's defense needs to make this season. Brody Heidemann has been put in charge of buy or sell tonight. He's got some questions about the Omadome and other things to talk about at 7 o'clock. Bob Williams will be in studio talking about another lawsuit facing a university. It seems like the university is going to win. We'll talk about that at 7:15. And we talked about Creighton dominating the transfer portal last night. John Walker from the Omaha World Herald will be in to discuss what exactly the Jays have been doing right through the transfer portal, be as successful as they have. And as always, we will wrap up the night with our Papillion Sanitation trash takes of the night. 402-951-1620 is how you can get a hold of the show. You can also follow the show on Twitter at After Hours 1620 as well. Dylan Raiola signed a major NIL deal today with Adidas. And the tag was same last name, same energy. And it got me to thinking, because there's a couple things with Dylan Raiola that he gets compared to, right? He gets compared to his father, fairly enough. It's his dad. He's got the NFL pedigree. It's probably a lot of the reason he got the attention he did, etc. But obviously there's those comparisons to Patrick Mahomes that are fairly unfair, however you want to look at it. But it's really surprising to me that, listen, his father is a very smart business person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of surprising to me that he didn't want him to kind of do his own thing. And maybe it was Dylan's approach. Maybe Dylan wants to respect his family and pay homage to his father and everybody that came before him and make it about his last name. And I'm fine with that. But from like a business branding standpoint, I just wonder how many people that Dylan Raiola is going to be selling apparel to are going to be caring about Dylan Raiola being one of the faces of Adidas is even going to know who his dad was. You know what I mean? Like from a generational standpoint.
Yeah. So if you want to take that route, I think the casual non-Nebraska fan, I mean, love Donovan Raiola.
Sure.
But
I agree.
They're not gonna know who he is, mainly just because of the position on the field that he played. Offensive linemen,
agreed,
as they have said in their own words, do not get all the shine that a lot of the other positions do. And rightly so. They're the ones doing the dirty work. They're the ones who are opening the holes and making sure that the quarterback doesn't get touched. And the best of them are usually the ones who are recognized are usually the left tackle. And that's about it.
Yep.
Occasionally the center. If the center has a great media career, shout out Jason Kelsey. Or wonderful beef jerky.
Yeah, there you go. Adidas has pulled the trigger on several athletes. Obviously, they gave Lexi Rodriguez a good deal a couple of years ago. Dejaz Defand, who runs track at USC, but is Lincoln High graduate, is an Adidas athlete as well. The pro athletes, and here's kind of where, like, it almost feels like Dylan is kind of trolling everybody at this point, right? Because, I mean, you got the haircut. You've got the mannerisms. You got the mannerisms before the game. You got him showing up in the AFC Championship game in the locker room.
Does it not help, too, that for the spring game, he wore a red jersey with yellow numbers on it?
Exactly like him.
I was like, dang.
But the pro athletes who Adidas sponsors is Lionel Messi, Damian Lillard, David Beckham, and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And for him to kind of fall, like, it almost, like, listen, to emulate your favorite player is one thing. And I'm sure Dylan's favorite player is Mahomes. I don't think he's ever actually said that. I think he actually said his favorite player of all time is Matthew Stafford because he's his godfather, whatever. But he's clearly trying to emulate the style that Patrick Mahomes plays, which I don't know if you can fault him for that. He's probably the best player in football, so it makes sense that that's the person you want to emulate.
Yeah.
But it just kind of feels like he knows that he's never going to be able to shake that little Cuzzo Mahomes clone, put up the picture of what Patrick was wearing this week and what Dylan was wearing this week during every single game.
Yeah.
Stigma that kind of stuck with him throughout his freshman year. So now he's kind of leaned all the way into this thing.
And so I do think, yes, he's leaned into it a little bit, but I also have to give,
A little bit?
hold on, because you have to give Dylan a little bit of credit at the same time.
Oh, I agree. That's what I'm doing.
For him, this is 100% a smart business move.
Yes.
100%.
Because unlike a Cooper Flag, for example,
Sure.
biggest possible name in all of college basketball right now, goes to a Nike school, but has an NIL and an endorsement deal with New Balance. Problem is
He's not a 40-year-old dad that
it's
mowing the lawn.
it's a Nike school.
Yep.
So he can't wear his New Balance sneakers on the court. I'm sure Dylan Raiola probably had more than one, sneaker / apparel NIL deal on the table. And he said, you know what's really easy? Being an Adidas athlete at an Adidas school.
Where I probably have a contact for somebody that can get a hold of from Adidas really easily.
And it does help that, one of the guys who I admire and whose trainer I work out with, Patrick Mahomes, is also an Adidas guy. So we can kind of maybe get some of that sweet, sweet Texas Tech kind of move around here eventually. Which, by the way, please don't do that.
Yeah, I mean,
give me some Dylan Raiola field, not Patrick Mahomes.
A couple of things, like I thought it was really smart to wait till his second year to do this also. Because from both parts, not only from Dylan's part, but from Adidas' standpoint as well, because it's not like, I don't think anybody was really worried about if it didn't work out. I think everybody was pretty sure that he had the goods. But listen, 7-6 isn't necessarily winning national championships or competing for a Big Ten title. I know everybody down in Lincoln, almost everybody, the majority of the people down in Lincoln feel really good about where this team is, specifically where this defense is.
Oh yeah.
And which is crazy to think, because I think it's going to look very different defensively from like what your eyeballs see, but that defense should be a lot faster this year.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to look different in a very positive way.
Yeah,
but again, we're talking about a defense that was ranked number 18th in the country a year ago too. So it's not, like, I mean, logistically it can't get that much better, but I think it's going to pass. Like statistically, there may be a step back, but I think they're going to pass the eye test a little bit better this year. But with that being said, like it feels like you've got the pieces in front and around Dylan Raiola for them to take steps this year. Now, two reasons why I say it's a smart move to do it in year 2. A, it's year 3 of Matt Rule, and everybody's expecting this to be an uptick. So from a business standpoint, great move. But B, to not do it your freshman season, it maybe wouldn't even been a possibility. But you've already got the pomp and circumstance around you as the 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't really need the big national name brand deal coming with you to kind of illuminate that a little bit bigger while you're kind of trying to take over this team and make it yours, because that could ruffle a few feathers along the way too. And I think Dylan understands the game enough. Even if this would have came about, he could have handled that. But my thing is now you have to produce in year 2. And I think everybody agrees the weight management stuff has been talked to ad nauseum, but they've got the pieces around him, and it feels like he's doing things the right way to take those steps forward. Excuse me, last year he completed 67% of his passes, and that got me to thinking, because in my eyes, and talk back to the eye test, it looked different against the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Dylan still completed 64% of his passes against Big Ten competition. He completed 194 passes, and he threw 300 and had 300 attempts. In the non-con, he threw 5 touchdowns, 2 against UNI, 2 against UTEP. He only threw for multiple touchdowns in Big Ten play against Illinois, and he threw 0 touchdowns against Ohio State, Ohio State, Indiana, and Iowa. In 2 of those games, he throws a touchdown. That's the difference in the game.
Yep.
And the eventual national champion probably doesn't even make the college football playoff if that happens.
Whoa. I mean,
Ohio State, if they have 3 losses, they're not.
Yeah,
in.
true.
They're not in. Yeah, I mean, they were the 8th seed with 2 losses. They're not getting into they didn't even play for the Big Ten. They wouldn't have, but they didn't even play for the Big Ten championship either. So they were definitely out. But with that being said, he made his money from Adidas. He's got to make his money on Saturdays throwing touchdowns this year. That's got to be the difference. Like, I don't know if I necessarily care if the interceptions go up a little bit. And we're going to talk about in the defense because I expect him to throw the football a little bit more this year. But he's got to make those money throws when the game's on the line. Otherwise, we're probably still talking about 6-6 this year. That's the part of his game that needs to take, even with how good that defense is. The offense has got to be able to score touchdowns this year.
Well, and I think too, it does help. Freshman year, it's not a bad mark for a freshman.
Sure, no, not at all.
Definitely would have liked to have seen more touchdown passes for sure.
Yeah, you can't have 3 games of 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, especially in in Indiana would have been great to see a lot more.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Ohio State,
he had 44 completions.
Yeah,
0 were for touchdowns.
Crazy.
And the one that really,
44 attempts.
The one that would have just killed it is Iowa.
Right.
If we would have seen one in that game, that would have been
how
100%
anemic that offense
difference.
was on the other side of the field, where they had one play that determined the game. I mean, all you need is that one play. Not to sound like a former football coach here, but all you needed is that one play to go your way, or just have your quarter. And the one thing about Dylan a year ago, and I firmly believe that the addition. This is where you're going to see the addition.
Dane Key.
No. Kind of, but no. When the addition of Dana Holgorsen is going to pay off in situations this year, because there were times where Dylan had an open guy, and it might have been look number 2 or look number 3, and it took him a while to get there. That's what Dana Holgorsen's system allows you to do. It allows you to get through your reads and progressions a little bit faster. And 2 things: those wide receivers got to get open, and I think they've got guys that do a bit, specifically in Isaiah Hunter and Dane Key, that are going to do a better job of getting open and getting separation this year. But the system in which they're going to play in is going to allow them to do that as well.
And that was the kind of point that I was working towards, was the fact that we've got a couple new wide receivers who can really open up the field for him. And in year 2, he is going to be much more used to the speed in which the game has to come to him. And I feel like he'll be able to cope a little bit better with some of the, Ohio States and Iowas of the world, because for as anemic as an Iowa offense is, an Iowa defense is pretty much always top notch.
Sure. Yeah. Especially when you got guys like Phil Parker back there helping call that thing.
Hey,
if you missed the opening segment tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/after hours 1620 was brought to you by Allo Fiber. Allo goes beyond internet, bringing fast, reliable speeds with an all-fiber network to your neighborhood. If you're in Ralston and you're sick of your internet service, we got great news for you. Allo Fiber is coming to your network. That's right. Allo started to dig in the Ralston area. If you're looking for new internet service, head over to allofiber.com tonight and sign up for new services. You know what's going to happen when you go to allofiber.com? You're going to talk to a real-life person that's right here in Nebraska. That's right. No robots, always a live person at allofiber.com. We'll be right back grading the Packers, the Niners, and the Rams, NFL draft, and our most hated rivals. We'll talk about that when we come back. 1620 The Zone.
I was the king of this hologram where there's no such thing as getting out of hand.
Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for our friends at Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. Go and open your closet right now. Go and take a look. You like what you see? Are those golf polos from 4 years ago just not holding up on the golf course where they used to shine a little bit and, get a couple of compliments as you're walking up and down the links? They're not doing that anymore. You need to head over to Jerry Ryan on 78th and Dodge. They're going to get you hooked up not only with the Roan polo, but the Roan pants. They'll be matching. They will go great in your closet and great on the links. You'll be the talk of the tee box on this Saturday if you stop by Jerry Ryan Clothing, 78th and Clothing and Sportswear, 78th and Dodge. Stop by, tell John, Dan, Deanne, Jake, and Monier the Taylor that the After Hours Lounge sent you. It's Jerry Ryan. They've been dressing Omaha for over 50 years.
You can get a great craft beer pretty much anywhere these days. But what about the whole package? Dining out, service, and atmosphere? Come to Cunningham's Pub and Grill, home of Omaha's original smoked wings, now with 2 locations. We're bringing back Sundays at our Old Mill location this fall, where you can catch all the sports while enjoying quality food and drinks. Find your flavor and follow us online for unique daily specials and fun craft beer events. Cunningham's Pub and Grill in Old Mill and now Blackstone.
The temperatures are rising outside. Don't let them rise inside. Controlled Comfort is your go-to for all things residential and commercial HVAC. Schedule an appointment today to get your AC checked out before summer gets here. Don't forget to make sure that your filter gets changed too. Head over to controlledcomfort.com and get the details on their annual maintenance plans today.
For all your home and business needs, Control Comfort is here to please. Control Comfort keeps it under control. Yeah.
It's April, and that means it's time to share a Coke. Stop by your Omaha area Hy-Vee and grab your favorite Coke products with your name, your brother's name, even mom's name, right on the 20-ounce bottle. For the month of April, Hy-Vee has 24 packs for just $12.99 and Body Armor 16-ounce bottle for just $1 or less at all Hy-Vee locations. Hy-Vee and Chesterman Coca-Cola, helping all of Omaha share a Coke in 2025.
.619 on a Tuesday night edition of the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Bellevue University. Download the BU Bruins app to your smartphone tonight to keep up to date on the championship action happening on Bellevue's campus. The NFL draft has come and gone. We gave our winners and losers from last night, or from the draft last night. What we didn't do is we didn't grade our overall favorite teams. And I'm going to go start us off because all of the grading and reviews of the draft has the 49ers draft at the very bottom, or at least a C- is the highest grade that I've seen the 49ers get. And I couldn't disagree more. Not because it's my own team. I love just about every pick that they made. They filled holes that they needed. They addressed the needs that from the guys that they lost. A lot of people wanted to see them go tight end in the first round because there wasn't a whole lot of clarity on the George Kittle situation. I think that's a lot of the reason they're getting the negative reviews that they are. But obviously, him being at OTAs yesterday and then getting the bag today, the 4-year, $76 million deal for the former Iowa tight end and current San Francisco 49er, kind of shored up some things there. But you lose a guy like Drake Greenlaw, and then you add a guy like Nick Martin from Oklahoma State in that third round. And if he hadn't had that injury, probably would have been a first-round guy. I mean, he was averaging 13 tackles a game at that point. So to me, it's an absolute steal in the third round. You needed a younger pass rusher, and you addressed both of those needs in the first two picks of your draft. You obviously gave Brock Purdy a ton of money, and you needed to take out an insurance policy on him, and you go get a quarterback in Curtis Rourke that obviously isn't first-round talent, but it was a winner for all intents and purposes at Indiana. And I think Jordan James from Oregon fits perfectly into that Kyle Shanahan system as well. So I have zero quorums with what the 49ers did. Could they have added higher level of talent? Obviously, but I think with where they were slated and the picks they made, I gave them a B. We're also going to grade our biggest rivals drafts too. I talked about it a little bit last night. I'm gonna grade the Seahawks, but as a 49ers fan, I love the Seahawks draft.
Yeah, it's scary.
None of it made sense. They've had a giant hole in that middle of the interior offensive line for 3 years now, and the fact that they went out and got Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. Does that fix that? Well, you better hope so, because you went out and you gave Sam Darnold a ton of money in this offseason. But Kenneth Walker has been banged up because that offensive line hasn't been able to get him going the way he did in his rookie year. You add an aging or a very aged Cooper Kupp and a probably washed Marquez Valdez-Scantling to this roster to replace DK Metcalf. I don't think that's going to do it, if I'm being honest. And you didn't really do much to address that. By the way, if you can't keep Sam Darnold upright, you're probably going to have to go to Jalen Milroe, because if Sam Darnold's hurt, he's probably going to have to run for his life, and Jalen Milroe is the only one on that roster that could probably do that.
True,
and he's a rookie. I love the pickup of Damian Martinez from Miami. I think he's going to be a really good NFL back, and I think he's a nice change of pace behind Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. I think that's a nice change of pace at running back. That's probably the only pick that I loved from the Seahawks in this draft, if I'm being honest. I gave them a C- last night. I think it might be a D.
Oh, even a D now.
So,
jeez,
you obviously, Dan Campen, are a Packers fan. Go ahead and break down the folks at Lambeau's draft from 3 nights ago.
Overall, A- for me.
A-.
Wow.
Yes. Because there's one teensy tiny hole that they sort of filled, and that I actually trust who they filled it with. I think, the Packers are one of those weird teams where they don't really do a lot around the early trade deadline. And then around like the mid-season trade deadline, they decide to do stuff. But just looking at the draft, number one on our draft sheet.
Number one on your draft sheet, number one in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Golden. It's such a sexy pick.
What a walkout.
It feels so good that Mark Murphy and Bryden Gutekunst, obviously I think they played it a little bit towards the crowd to be like, we know that our fans are the ones who are like truly here right now. And we got to give them a little bit of the, what they want.
What we've never given them
since 2002.
Yeah.
You heard him. But yeah, I love Matthew Golden as the first pick for the Packers in this draft. And then to couple that with Savion Williams as well, I think it's a great dual threat wide receiver kind of young pickup that they got, especially with Matthew Golden's speed and the ability to take the top off the defense. And you're listening, Joey Colbert, on your way home, I think he's probably going to replace Christian Watson. I don't think you would hate that.
You're also not in the gang, Joey,
as much as you would think. But then Savion Williams, I really like the fact that he is a clean and crisp route runner, and he's not afraid to try to go up and high point a ball. Not always the best at it, but I have a feeling that he's going to develop very nicely in a Packer system. Love the fact that we got Barron Sorrell from Texas, the edge. Short, stocky armed kind of guy.
A lot of Texas flavor in Lambeau these days.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Also, it's going to be a lot colder than it was when you guys played football last year. Just keep that in mind.
And also tell the guys from Georgia and Tulane that on the way.
I think every single guy on this list played in a warm environment.
Yeah, they had an offensive tackle in the 7th round from Cincinnati.
Yeah. John Williams was from Cincinnati.
Okay.
It's cold in Ohio sometimes.
I do like Micah Robinson, though. I think he's going to be an absolute steal in the 7th round, by the way.
And so that was my one hole that I was like, I thought they would pick up at least 2 cornerbacks in this draft. I was grinding some Micah Robinson tape on Sunday on the way home.
He's a dude.
And I was like,
he fell in the 7th round.
I was like, I do not hate this as much now. But that is why I gave them an A-, is simply due to the fact that I think we could have gotten 2 cornerbacks just because the Jair Alexander situation is so up in the air right now for us.
I'm going to assume that with the next team we're going to talk about is the Chicago Bears.
Hate.
Loathe entirely.
But I said last night, I don't quite hate it as much as people would, want to give me credit for. Because
you just assume that you hate it because they're the Bears.
Yeah. I would give them a B- because I think that they really focused on a lot of positions that they shouldn't have been terribly worried about. Colson Loveland and Luther Burden, the first 2 off the board for you. It's a good thing that you've got pass catchers. Like I said last night, I don't think they're going to keep Colson Loveland as a tight end. I think they're going to try to convert him to wide receiver as soon as they possibly can. Because if you have forgotten, Chicago, you have a guy in your tight end room by the name of Cole Kmet,
Yep.
and he is not bad.
Yeah.
He's actually very good.
It really felt like Chicago took the best available player at the spots where they had some like they even had kind of a question mark there. They just took the best available player.
Oh yeah,
for whatever they needed, even if it wasn't what they needed in that round.
And I am blown away a little bit by Ozzy Trapilo, but I am not blown away by Luke Newman at all. You pick up 2 offensive tackles and you don't think about guard or center, which is kind of ridiculous because that's probably the 2 positions that you need the biggest help at right now as the Chicago Bears. And then
they have a franchise quarterback they need to protect.
They do. And their very last pick of the draft is the one that I will give them a little bit of credit for. They needed a little bit more depth at running back, and Kyle Monangai does add depth because he's another warm body at running back.
All right. Not that anybody wants to hear this, but let's hear about the Rams.
Oh, come on.
Los Angeles Rams.
I mean, okay. Here's the thing. We traded out of our first round spot, which honestly, I was not surprised about. I thought when I saw, I think there was somebody that traded up, I think right in front of them. I think it was the Giants traded up, and I was like, okay. I'm like, I thought we weren't going to trade out. And then I saw us trade out. I was like, okay. But that's where I kind of get to my grade. I'm going to give it a B+ because of the pick we got, not because of the draft.
Sure.
Picking up a pick from the Falcons next year in a draft like this,
where they could
I like it.
Probably take a downturn this year.
Exactly. And also, Terrence Ferguson, the tight end we took in the second round, apparently, this is also probably just something the front office would say. They claim they wanted to take him in the first round, which
is what I would say if I took somebody in the second round.
Exactly. It's probably something they would say, but it speaks to that they might have wanted a guy like this. So I like the pickup of Terrence Ferguson. I think Tyler Higbee getting old. He's had some knee injuries. I think that he's going to slot in.
He's about a lot of your team right now.
True. True. But down the board, the other guy I really like that we picked up, Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss. I think he could be a really good linebacker for us. We have a lot of depth up front, but our linebackers are kind of scattered across the board. I think he could step up and be there. I don't know. I think Josiah Stewart, I don't mind him. I think that he was kind of the low light of that Michigan D line. But I mean, also at the same time, when you have some of the guys on the Michigan D line that were playing for them, it's kind of hard to be the spotlight of it. So I'm going to still stick with a B+ for this Rams team. There really wasn't that many picks, only 6. But
are you surprised you guys didn't go quarterback at all?
No, I think that they know that Stafford has at least, I think he's got 2 years left in him. I think next year is the year we'll take a quarterback if we do. So I don't know. I could see him retiring after this year, but I think he's still got 2 more years in him. And since Jimmy did the good old Seahawks, I'm going to do the Cardinals because, I mean, I don't hate the Cardinals, but
congratulations on doing the entire division, guys.
The
NFC West.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals, I hate to give them a good grade, but I'm going to give them an A. They got a lot of good depth down the board and a lot of guys that I like. Walter Nolan picked him up at 16. I think he's going to be really good. A lot of people thought
he could have been a top 10 guy. Yeah, for sure.
And then Will Johnson, which was, if you would have said he would have been a top 10 pick, I don't think people would have looked at you crazy. I think he could have been a top 10 pick. He probably was a few months ago. There was a lot of injury concerns. So picking him up in the middle of the second round was kind of crazy. And then Jordan Birch, who got a lot of hype during the season at Oregon. He's a good pass rusher, and I think he can kind of slot in there. And then a guy down the board who literally, I think he was a projected first round pick last year, probably would have went into the draft last year and been a day 1 or day 2 pick. Denzel Burke dropped all the way to the 5th round.
Yeah, cost himself some money.
I think that's a good pickup from them. I hate that Arizona also I don't like Jimmy's grade on the Seahawks. I think they got a few good guys down the board as well. But
you're entitled to be incorrect. It's fine.
But I think Arizona, they got an A grade. I don't know. NFC West, the 49ers and the Rams kind of felt like they got the lower grades of the division.
What the hell happens with Kyler Murray? Like, because I mean, it feels like they've
spurt.
Yeah,
just feels like they've just gone back and forth between whether they want that to be a long-term deal or not. Like, feels like at the end of every season, it's just going to be a discussion until they decide to move on with it from him, or they win a Super Bowl. And it doesn't feel like there's going to be any in between. It's just weird. Like, they just don't like their backup is also Jacoby Brissett.
And it feels like they'll go out. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago where they went out and went like 7-0 to start the season, and then just went off a cliff at the end of it. It feels like Kyler Murray has these.
Well, and they paid Trey McBride all that money too. Like, it just
they have these resurgences, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the Cardinals are 7-9 or whatever.
And then the one thing that you didn't say about the Cardinals, Brody, is the fact that
They're in
I-
Arizona, not St. Louis.
well, I don't know
That too.
why they didn't go at all with a wide receiver with any one of their
True.
picks.
Because they just drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. last year.
Did you see him play last year, though? As
Yeah, he
much
was-
as I think he's a generational wide receiver, he also didn't really live up to the hype.
You don't need a compliment.
That's
You
what
don't
I'm
need
saying.
a
I think
compliment to Marv.
sometimes, even if you're the best wide receiver in the game,
Maserati Marv.
having somebody
Oh,
else buy you helps.
They're really high on Zay Jones. I mean,
Eh,
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I didn't love it either. They have a lot to figure out in that wide receiver room too. Hey, if you missed our grade on our favorite and our least favorite teams in the NFL, check it out at soundcloud.com/after hours 1620. It was brought to you by our friends over in the Blackstone District. It's Cunningham's Pub. There's a lot of options on the Cunningham's menu. There's going to be the best one that you can get on a Tuesday. It's the prime rib French dip sandwich. That's right. Derek is going to make you his homemade au jus sauce to dip your favorite prime rib into with the great cheese melted over the top of it, and the tomatoes that go on top also. Stop by Cunningham's Pub tonight in Blackstone. Parking garage is so unique and so upgraded. It's a nice touch to the Blackstone area. It's less than a 5-minute walk to the front door of Cunningham's. Stop by Cunningham's Pub in Blackstone tonight and tell Derek and the crew that we sent you. It is the After Hours Lounge on a Tuesday night. We'll be right back. Where does Nebraska's defense need to improve in 2025? We'll tell you on the other side of the break. 1620 The Zone.
Life is so rough, the one you got, cause you might get run over or you might get shot. Never start no static, I just get it off my chest.
Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Bob Williams with Williams Law. Bob is going to be in here in the second hour breaking down some of the litigation happening in the sporting world. But you know what? If you have some litigation going on in your life, maybe your son or daughter has been up to no good in a parking lot, making some bad decisions behind the wheel of a car, was just involved with friends making a bad decision, but find themselves facing litigation, we've got the solution for you. It's Williams Law. Bob and his team are going to walk you through the process, explain your rights, and they're going to do it all for free with a free, no obligation legal consultation to get you ready for that big day in court to make sure that Williams Law is the right representation for you. Head over to WilliamsLawLLC.com and get that free, no obligation legal consultation tonight. Oh, you might get shot. It is 6:30 and my kid's already in pajamas.
I wish I
Pull up a stool and rock out on the After Hours Lounge. Brought to you by Bellevue University. Keep up to date on all the championship action happening on Bellevue's campus by downloading the BU Bruins app to your smartphone tonight. Nebraska's defense, we talked about at the beginning of the show, doesn't necessarily have a lot of strides that they could make, but we're going to give you 3 different things that we think they can do to improve this season. They finished 18th ranked nationally defensively last year, but 31st ranked nationally on third down. And that's where I'm going to start because I think they're going to do a better job of getting off the field on third down. Now, John Butler, not Tony Butler with controlled comfort if you're looking for AC and heating problems. But John Butler talked about being more aggressive on third down and what that would need to look like this year. And I agree. I think not only do they need to be more aggressive on third down, I think they just got to find a way to get off the field in general. They finished 31st nationally on third down, like I said, and that's top 20% in the country. So it's not like they were horrible, but they just then third in the Big Ten, by the way, also only behind USC and Ohio State. But if you want the discussion to be for a Big Ten championship or to make a college football playoff, which Matt Rule has been talking about since he got to Lincoln, you have to be able to win offensively on first down. You got to win defensively on third down. 55 times last year, Nebraska gave up a first down on third down, and that number's got to change dramatically in year 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, my big one is less what they need to be better at per se, and what I think they need to keep the status quo up at, and that's getting to the quarterback, just in general, because with the loss of Nash and Ty, your 2 big staple pieces. Some would call them the exciting whites of Nebraska.
Some would.
You need to figure out a way to have your front 2 guys, your 2 big ends in the middle, be able to get back to the quarterback as efficiently as possible again this year. Because that was something that Nash and Ty were extremely good at, with causing chaos, creating the double teams in the middle, and being a force that had to be reckoned with.
You know what I'm going to be really interested to see? The philosophy for those front 3 down linemen, because I'm with you. Because I think last year you knew what you had in a pass rush, and those 3 guys and whoever lined up outside of him. Never forget Cam Lenhart's coming back this year, and he's a guy that hasn't been talked about a lot.
I know,
was a freshman
it's kind of
All-American.
weird.
Had a little bit of a drop off a year ago, and I guess that's probably why. But when you look at that linebacker room, and you can maybe even argue that that back 4 and the length and the size and the speed they have. Do you want your front 3 guys rushing the passer, or do you want them eating up blocks so guys like Vincent Shaver and Willis McGahee can get into the backfield and cause havoc? And it's not like it has to be one or the other either.
Yeah,
but
to kind of that's fair.
Kind of bring it back to my point about third down, like in the money downs, where you gotta have it and you need somebody to get to the backfield. Who, like, you'd love to have it be all 3 levels. Like, hey, we got a guy, because McCullough's that guy too, who wherever he's going to line up at, he's going to be causing havoc. But I'm going to be really intrigued to what Coach Braden, Coach Butler, Coach Simpson, Phil Snow, whoever you want to throw into that equation in those respective rooms, decide to do in that standpoint. Do they let a guy like Riley Van Poppel, who has the ability to pin his ears back and get in the backfield, try to make that play? Or do you let his size and a guy like Williams Namorny, who has the ability to line up on the edge but can also eat up blocks, like, do you let them pin their ears back, or do you ask them to eat up blocks and let your athletes go make plays?
So,
and that's where I'm going to be most intrigued by this defense.
I think that kind of gets to my point as well, though, Jimmy.
Sure. Yeah.
In a sense, is that, like, I would like to see guys like Riley Van Poppel get into the backfield, but I'd also like to see them, like, midway through the season, when it's like, hey, the opposing offensive line has actually figured out Riley Van Poppel's play style. Not a bad thing, because that means that, hey, we have to double team this Riley Van Poppel guy.
Yeah, and listen,
and then Willis McGahee
can
too, get into the backfield. Doesn't hurt whatsoever.
it's a really good problem to have, but you have so many guys with different body types that do different things. And if you're going to stay in your traditional 3-3-5, and it sounds like they're going to probably mix up a hybrid of it. But if you put Elijah Judy at the nose, and we know how we've heard people talk about how high they are on Keona Davis, and he looks the part. And we just mentioned Cam Lenhart. You know who we didn't just mention that rotation? Riley Van Poppel.
Yeah.
So like, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that room, because it's not like you have those established guys in Nash and Ty. We're like, okay, these guys have to be out there on these downs.
Yeah.
You got some guys that are kind of earning their spot right now. You're probably paying a few of them quite a bit of money too. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but that's what you kind of got to manage now. So I'm really intrigued to see how that defensive line room is managed. And one thing that may determine who is out there is my next point, and it's causing turnovers. Now, Nebraska in year one under Matt Rule, -17 in turnovers, and that was a lot more on the offense than the defense. And last year they were -2. They had one more interception and one more fumble than they caused, but you only had 11 picks and 6 forced fumbles. I would like to see both of those numbers uptick by 4 this year to see improvement. I think you need at least 15 picks and 10 forced fumbles that are recovered. So not only does Nebraska need to be better about not turning the ball over, I think they have to. I think they have to cause more havoc plays, which I think is part of John Butler's plan this year, and that has to lead to turnover. It's not necessarily they have to cause more havoc plays. They have to cause more havoc plays that gives the ball back to this offense, because I think the offense is going to be more dynamic this year too.
Yeah, and that was actually so. This will play right in, because I know we're going to have to make this segment a little bit short.
Sure.
In general, because I'm a clock watcher.
Oh yeah,
that played into that is my number 3 point that I had, was we just need more turnovers in general. And my biggest thing with that is I'm interested to see what the influx of Addison Williams into this defensive back room will do, maybe with a new mentality or a new coaching style, possibly in the way that they play cover defense, especially on those long passing downs. Because let's be honest, we were giving up a lot of plays last year that probably could have gotten some better picks on, and probably gotten some better looks on. There were a couple times when, the defensive back wasn't really watching for the ball, and it just sailed right over their head.
Sure.
Literally directly over their head into the guy's arms. And it's like,
right through their hands.
Yeah,
that could have been something that, would have helped out a little bit.
Leads perfectly into my last one. You got to not give up the big play. We don't need to bring up the one big play against Iowa like we did earlier. The dozens of plays against Indiana that didn't go great. But Nebraska gave up an average of 5.37 yards per play. Of the other top 30 defenses in the country, only Missouri gave up more per play. So they obviously had that bend but don't break standpoint or mentality, a lot to what you just alluded to. They get stops in the run game. They get you stops on first and short or second and short, first down. But there were times where the DBs, and we got to remember, John Butler came in late in the equation. You lose Evan Cooper. There's probably a little bit of a miscommunication on personnel and types, things like that. All that should be fixed this year because John Butler's staying and being the DC. So that's right. Your last one?
My last one was communication. I put it in big, bold letters and even all capsed it, because I think the biggest thing that this defense needs to work on more than anything this year is communication. And to be fair, who are the communicators usually on defense? The linebackers.
Yep.
Who is one of the few coaches on this staff who has stuck in his exact same position this entire time?
Rob Dvorak.
Rob Dvorak. Also, the scariest looking man, I think, on that staff.
Fair enough.
I know that he
Mike
could line up
Eckler.
at linebacker. Nah.
Come on.
Mike Eckler looks like your drunk uncle.
Still, Mike Eckler.
Mike Eckler, I'd be scared of in a fist fight. Rob Dvorak, if I saw him in a dark alley, I'd go, good day, sir, and turn around.
Yeah.
But the linebacking core, I think, is going to be the key in communicating this year to what is the offense doing? What are we seeing? And getting that to Butler and to Rule and saying, here are the things that we see that we think we need to change. And here's what we can do.
You would think with Phil Snow, John Butler, Addison Williams, Matt Rule, all 4 guys that have been defensive coordinators at some point, That should be the one thing that's not a problem, is the ability to communicate and make sure communication is being held smoothly. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Hey, that's our thoughts on what Nebraska needs to improve on defensively. If you missed it, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620 is brought to you by Tony Butler, not John Butler, and Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. The temperatures are rising outside. Don't let them rise inside. If you haven't had the maintenance done on your HVAC unit, you don't have peace of mind about your AC yet, we've got the solution for you. Head over to controlledcomfort.com. They'll come out, they'll replace the furnace filter for you. They'll take a look at the furnace, make sure that the winter didn't take too harsh of a toll on the furnace, but they'll also make sure that your AC is up and running and ready for summer as well. We're going to find out what's trending on social media with Brody Heidemann when we come back on 1620 The Zone.
Oh no, we gotta go. We're not gonna live forever.
Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Paul Davis Restoration. If you have been affected by the seasonal storms and maybe a little bit of water damage got into the house that you weren't expecting to be there, and it might not be developing into mold yet, but it may not take too long for it to do so, you need to get a hold of our friends at Paul Davis Restoration. They do a ton of different work, including dealing with mold, fire damage, roof restoration, and a ton of other things to upkeep your house and restore it to the way it used to be. Head over to pauldavisomaha.com tonight and work with Paul Davis to restore your home this evening. You know, it's always a good day when the number of the day ends in 2-9. March 29th, Yankees hit 4 home runs in the first
Oh,
inning.
yeah.
April 29th, Yankees hit 4 home runs in the first inning. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Do you want to know where Taylor Swift was on April 29th?
Was she feeling 22?
It's a famous song lyric. I don't know.
Okay.
People, Twitter is a buzz with Taylor Swift quotes today.
Always.
You know what else is famous? Bellevue University. If you're looking for a famous experience for your college years, head over to bellevue.edu, register for classes, and become a Bruin tonight. It's time for the social media soundbite where Brody Heidemann, the pride of all of Gretna, Nebraska, is in studio tonight, and he's been seeing what's trending on the interwebs and has it for us tonight.
Yeah, there's a guy. He's a pretty good former head coach. Not former head coach right now. A pretty
current head coach.
Famous head coach. Got into a little bit of I wouldn't say a scandal this weekend, but more of I don't know if it was I don't know what you would call it with.
Let's hear it, and then we can decide
with
what
the
we would
news.
call
Yeah,
it.
let's play it.
We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati.
So Jordan, 24 years old.
Jordan Hudson. Put some
yes.
respect on her name.
Did not want to speak at all about how they met. Lots and lots of people immediately went to the social medias and had some thoughts about it. And all I gotta say, if I'm a North Carolina fan, I'm not feeling the greatest right now.
So here's what I want to point out. Bill Belichick has kids.
Yes, he does.
They're around her.
Yeah,
and that's
older.
That's probably why. Yeah, I was trying to be nice, Brody. That's probably why they didn't feel comfortable pointing this out. And I know older man dating young woman, insert internet website here jokes are coming. We'll get there in a second. But I don't look at this as an overwhelming negative, by the way. Because and here's why. Bill Belichick is 73 years old. Bill Belichick is now dealing with college-age kids, not professionals.
Yeah.
And he's got to be able to relate to them in some way. I'm not saying that's the only reason he's dating Jordan Hudson. You can date whoever you want as long as it's legal. And I won't say boo about it. But with that being said, like the thing that was this 60 Minutes? Who was this? This is CBS. Right?
This was CBS Sunday Morning.
Yeah. The thing that they didn't point out was like she was almost like managing him like an SID.
Yeah. So that was,
and I think he needs it. I think it's good for him.
Well,
so that was the point that I wanted to make is this got so much attention from the internet, just this one short clip of the interview.
Because she was hiding creepily while he pointed her out. What was that? Sorry, go ahead.
That as well, but
it's very weird.
That was not, according to CBS Sunday Morning, because they came out with a statement and they said, just so everyone is aware, this was not the only time that Jordan interjected into one of our lines of questioning. And I think it's important to point out also what program this was on. This was not 60 Minutes. This was not an NBC nightly news feature. This was not like an NPR like radio feature. This was CBS Sunday Morning, a program that, yes, does do very good, very legitimate journalism, but at the same time also does like very lighthearted and fluffy stories, because their premier news program is later on that night in 60 Minutes.
Right.
But they don't usually touch on super hot button topics and issues. They are more your light and fluffy, like Mormon Tabernacle Choir gains like young, cool new member who's like 13 and has the voice of an angel. And they do like a Justin Tucker is like an opera singer and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm only giving singing examples.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with this, but
it's
ahead.
like cute pet tricks and stuff like that. So my biggest thing with this is I love it for Bill Belichick in that I think it gives him someone who makes him accountable for some of the things that he says. And to be fair, if this was any other year, do you think that Bill Belichick would be doing publicity for a book that he wrote? I am going to say it just straight up. Not a chance in hell.
No.
Not a chance in hell would Bill Belichick be doing any sort of press
Definitely
for a
not.
book he wrote. He would say,
We're on
I
Cincinnati.
wrote a book.
We're on
It's
Cincinnati.
out in bookstores.
We're on
You can
Cincinnati.
buy it. You don't have to buy it.
We're on to Cincinnati.
And yes, we are on to Cincinnati.
Can we, like, for all the negative connotations that come around her being 24 and him being 73, can we talk about her for a second and the confidence you have to have to stand in that moment and make those comments, though?
Also to Bill Belichick.
To anybody.
He is I mean, if you're standing in a room with Bill Belichick and he starts, if he starts getting mad at you, are you going to speak up at him? He's the type of guy, I feel like. If
And
he
she
starts,
seems perfectly
Yeah.
fine stepping up and speaking
Exactly.
up to anybody, by the way. Hey, we got to buy or sell on the other side of the break. If you missed the social media soundbite tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/after-hours 1620. It's brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. If your business needs help with social media marketing, maybe you need to show up at the top of Google searches because your SEO isn't working. Pixel Fire Marketing is here to help. They'll also build you an award-winning website along the way as well. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details tonight. We'll be right back with buy or sell on the other side of the break. 1620 Zone.
I'll take one lift. You're right. Best trip.
Hey, listen, plumbing issues are not small things like our friends from Bleak 182 would like you to believe. They're large things, and they can cause major lasting issues. If you're having plumbing problems, but not necessarily big financial gains in life, and you're trying to figure out how you could pay for your plumbing problems, let me tell you about AX Plumbing. They're locally owned and operated. They even have financing available on their website. They can help you take care of your plumbing issues long term. Make sure that they're taken care of so you can have peace of mind about your house. Check out axpservice.com tonight. Check out Nick and his team. They're going to tell you exactly what's going on. They'll diagnose the problem, and they will help you fix your problems long term. There's even a discount for current and former military and first responder members as well. Check out axpservice.com. Get all your plumbing issues fixed today. second hour. You know what that means. It's time for Buy or Sell, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Get a free estimate for your windows, your roof, your gutters, your siding. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. Bob Williams will be joining us talking about all things law in a minute, but he's going to join us early for Buy or Sell. Brody Heidemann is in for Dan Campinen. Dan Campinen is in for John Schreiner. Jimmy Allen is in for Jimmy Allen tonight. It is time for Buy or Sell, however. Brody, what do we got tonight? So full disclosure, we have no control over what's happening here. Brody wrote all these questions all by himself.
As it should be.
They grow up so fast.
Bring it on.
Hey, I think this is truly a year. I came in last year, day after the state championship, or it was like a week after the state championship.
Well,
for
don't be
journalism.
humble. Well, after you guys won the state
Back-to-back champions.
Oh, did you
Sorry.
win this year? We haven't asked about this.
Yeah, yesterday. Went
Congratulations.
Out, won
His
the state
headline is state
championship.
champ.
Well, despite your below average teacher for your journalism team.
Shout out Miss Duncan.
You guys pulled it off.
Hey, back-to-back. But
Congratulations, but that's not what we're here for.
Sacramento State has money. Yesterday, you guys talked about how they hired Shaq as their new GM. Apparently, a few months ago, me and Dan didn't know this. They hired Mike Bibby as
Correct.
their head coach. The swole man himself. Swole man himself.
Which is how the Shaq thing came about.
Mm-hmm. Now, they pick up former five-star Mikey Williams. Buy or sell, Sacramento State is making headlines as they transition to the FBS.
Absolutely they are. But I think it's a couple things. And as much as we want to hate on Deion Sanders and talk how negatively his the way he transitioned from Jackson State to Colorado, quote, affected college athletics, this is kind of the ripple effect, right? And I think it's an absolute buy. And if you can attract young athletes by bringing star power to your campus, I think there's proof in the pudding now that it works.
Yeah, I buy as well. I mean, even the Shaq thing, just we all know what it's going to be. It's going to be him saying, hey, we can get you to Sacramento State, and really just being a hands-off, assistant GM as he always is.
Mm-hmm.
The Mike Bibby thing,
that's huge.
I think is way bigger because you get a coach who has NBA experience and also like his AAU coaching experience with his own sons cannot be understated.
Also, he's Mike Bibby.
It's Mike Bibby.
But
he's huge.
Here's what I want out of Shaq. Shaq is a DJ.
Ooh.
I need Shaq DJ in the Sac State game.
Shaq Diesel.
It'd be pretty cool.
I'm buying as well. I don't know what they're paying Shaq. I mean, I'm not sure what that compares to his NBA TNT contract.
Probably not a lot.
It's all about your name and marketing, and all it takes is one recruiting cycle. You are, sir, on the map.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
big buy.
And who doesn't want to go hang out with Shaq?
I mean, he's the biggest dude,
Shaq
literally.
Fu, man.
They had a 5-star a few months ago, Ryder Lyons out of California. He came in and visited, and it literally was just a publicity visit, and they paid him money to come visit, I'm guessing.
Cool.
After making the playoffs, though, after making the playoff as originally a 10 seed, the Miami Heat, yikes. That's all I got to say. Yeah. Yikes. They fell by 55 last night to the Cavs, and they lost every game before that by double digits. Is it time to start thinking about a different format for the playing games? Buy or sell, they need to be rethought or fixed.
I buy that they need to be rethought. And here's why. I think everybody goes, well, we want more basketball. Fans will buy more tickets. It's a way to make more money. Half these teams are ready to pack it in for the season anyway. I don't think that was necessarily the case with the Heat. I just think the Cavs are that good, but you could convince me there's a couple of other series that went that way for that reason.
I sell. I don't think you need to change the plan whatsoever. I like the format in which they have it now, where it is win and get in, and it is, you at least get to play 2 games to actually make it into the playoffs. I think the bigger question is the Pat Riley season in like Heat history, is it over?
Yeah.
Because it seems like Pat Riley doesn't really have his finger on the pulse or his finger on the team anymore. And that, I think, is the bigger downfall of this Heat squad towards the end of the season.
I just hate that 66% of the teams technically make the playoffs. That's kind of, I can deal without that.
Well, I'll sell packing it in on the format. I actually don't mind it as well. It's kind of intriguing. I have to remind myself each year what exactly the format includes, what exactly the seedings mean as they go into the 9-10 spot, right?
Mm-hmm. Seems like most of the players do is too. Also,
the season by about a week. And yeah, I'm wondering what the Silver Fox of the NBA was thinking that second half last night. already booked his Cancun trip with his
1, 2, 3,
private jet.
Cancun.
Probably.
I mean, what they'd lose by over 50, right?
It's
Wasn't it
55.
55. That was sure that was.
That's not
record.
good, folks. That's
Yeah.
not good.
I think that it just needs to be rethought a little bit. I don't know. I think it has its pluses, it has its negatives, and I think that it's just kind of. I like the aspect that a team that is a 10 seed can make it, but also they're a 10 seed.
Yeah.
I think they had a below 500 record. They should
Well-
be in the lottery.
Well, here's the other problem you're going to run into, right? Like the Cavs sweep the Heat, the Thunder sweep the Grizzlies, the Pacers are probably going to knock out the Bucks tonight in a 4-1. The Knicks are probably going to knock out the Pistons in a 4-1. The Celtics are probably going to knock out the Magic in a 4-1. Golden State somehow is leading that series, and
Crazy.
it's just a testimonial to the Rockets' youth. But you have a chance that the only series that isn't going to end in a 4-1 or a sweep is the Nuggets of the Clippers. That's not great.
It's got to be rare though, doesn't it?
I mean,
That's what we're talking about, right? Like,
Right?
is it
Yeah.
is it the
True.
format or is this one off?
I think it's just the year.
We'll see.
Creighton baseball is on a 8-game win streak.
They're
currently.
good, folks.
Yeah, they are 9-3 in Big East play in they have a 1-game lead over UConn. They famously play in the same home as a College World Series.
Oh, do they?
Buy or sell, Creighton has any chance of staying home and playing in Omaha.
I think that two things. Do they have a shot? I don't know if their pitching rotation is good enough, but a shot, sure, I'll give them a shot. The thing that I think is the interesting question is, do they have the chance of really like becoming an at-large bid? And I think they really do. Like they have, if they can get to 41, I think they can absolutely get that spot in the tournament itself. Now, does that lead them to be in a Final 8 and in Omaha to play for a national championship? Probably not. But I think they can absolutely get to the actual tournament itself.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jimmy. I think they have a pretty good chance to make it into one of the regionals or the super regionals even, but I don't think they're going to end
They're
up
not hosting one, that's for sure.
Oh, no.
Definitely not.
No. I think, and truly, I think the only way that they make an at-large bid is if they come out of the season number 1, and they probably have to win the Big East tournament as well.
I would agree. I don't think this is a win-one for the Gipper. I don't think you can pull that off for the whole postseason, right? Type thing. But even though it is his last season, I think he has had a fantastic career. But I think asking them to make it, at least bidding on whether or not they're going to make it to the CWS at this point in time, I think a very, very long shot.
Yeah, I think they have to have a good run at the end of the season. They
just got to get hot, right?
Didn't update this, but they did lose to Omaha today. But I think they have a chance. Obviously, they're playing. I don't remember the record. It's something crazy at home. So having that kind of record at home is probably a good thing if you're going to be possibly playing there in the postseason. But I also saw they are projected possible 3 seed or on the 3 line for the regionals. So I think they have a decent chance of making. Well, they'll make the regionals, but I don't know past that what it looks like for them. On the contrary, though, the team in Lincoln took a major step back this season. They currently sit below 500 at 21-23. Buy or sell, the Bolt era is coming to a close soon.
Soon. What do you mean by soon?
I think in the next season.
Okay, so by the end of next year?
I think end of next year, yes.
I still sell. They have too much talent in that coaching. So Nebraska has this weird dynamic going on right now because everybody wants to talk about Fred Hoiberg and the job he's done and the job that Will Bolt has done. They don't really have the money to spend on baseball and men's basketball right now.
Yeah,
true.
And how much is revenue sharing going to change that? And I don't think anybody thinks Will Bolt is a bad coach. And when you have the ability to have a guy like Rob Childress on your staff also, that's obviously a very, and everybody in this room knows how high I am on Lance Harville as well. But I just feel like it's really hard for me to sit here and say, you should fire Will Bolt, you should fire Fred Hoiberg, because I know the hills that they have to climb in their own athletic department, right? Now, is that to say that somebody else couldn't come in and do that job? No, but I find it very hard that between now and the end of next baseball season, Will Bolt and that coaching staff won't figure this thing out. So I'm going to sell.
I will only disagree with you on one thing, Jimmy, and that's something that that I'm going to say right now. I can sit here and say that you should fire Fred Hoiberg, but I just cannot. I can't rationalize even thinking about firing Will Bolt. he's just too important to that baseball program. This is just it hurts to say because last year was a little bit down and it didn't quite meet up to the expectation that you wanted it to. But last year, the expectation was oh so high.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that same expectation was coming into this year, and then you're riddled with injuries and you're riddled with the fact that you don't have your Saturday starter anymore. It's a real tough pill to swallow, but I don't think Will Bolt's going anywhere anytime soon. So I'll sell.
How about Omaha winning the state championship though? Beat Nebraska, beat Creighton.
Right,
True.
Right. I would, if we're sitting here next year and they have a similar record, exactly 1 year from now, put it on the calendar, I would say he's firmly on the hot seat. So I think that would be a buy that he could be gone at the end of next year. Missing your Friday night starter or your Saturday night starter, you know what that does not equate to? Not being able to hit the dang ball.
That's a good point.
Fair enough.
Honestly. So as much as I'd love to have him stick around, and I went to college when he was there, loved watching him play, CWS, everything. Yeah. It's too bad. I hope they can get this ship turned around.
It would be really bad for this fan base if both Scott Frost and Will Bolt don't work
True.
out.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think that it's gonna be a lot of next season. I think this season is it's got its mark. It's got its whatever you want to say after last season because you're coming off such a high. But I think next season, if they don't get back to that point, or if they don't get anywhere, if they don't get even close to it, then I think there's going to be some conversations, and I could see them going in different direction.
We got to be talking about a regional next year.
They were ranked to start the season, guys.
Yeah.
People forget.
I mean,
they
preseason
were.
polls are preseason polls, nonetheless.
All right. The last question, the one that I know all of us have been waiting for so anxiously. It went viral all over Twitter yesterday, all over the platforms. Buy or sell, 100 men could beat one gorilla. This is no weapons, hand-to-hand in a fight. You have 100 men versus one gorilla.
I think you absolutely could. I mean, if it's all at one time, just like swarming it, and I think it would definitely be 100 guys.
Give me the gorilla. Give me the gorilla.
I love the gorilla, honestly.
Okay, this isn't King Kong we're talking about. Any iteration of the King Kongs from any of
This
them.
is just a normal
This
gorilla.
is even if it's a silverback gorilla, you rush 100, men at it simultaneously, you're gonna debilitate that animal.
100 times out of 100. Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I just think if you're
It would be fun to watch.
You're running at at the zoo, a gorilla gets out and you have 100 people going at it. If they all somehow surround it at the same time, if they're strategically planning, I think that they could take it out. But if it's just 100 people going at it,
Well, if there's
in
100
a
people
group-
running at a gorilla without strategically planning it out, that's a lost cause anyway.
Yeah, I think the gorilla-
they deserve
the
to
gor-
lose.
I'll take a
gorilla
third
just
of
goes
the
crazy.
300 Spartans. Okay,
Yeah.
then we definitely got it.
That's it for Buy Yourself. If you missed it tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. AC unit making a little bit of funny noises. Can't figure out why. You're not supposed to know why. Let the experts come out and figure out what it is. Head over to controlledcomfort.com. Check out their new website. I know you've probably seen the commercials all throughout town. Seen Stephen Butler's pretty face all over your Facebook feed and all that. Check out what Controlled Comfort's all about at controlledcomfort.com and figure out why it's so personal to them to do business in the Omaha area, and make sure you have peace of mind about your HVAC tonight. Check out controlledcomfort.com. Bob Williams stays around with us talking swimming injuries. We come back 1620 zone.
What a waste of blood and sweat. I wanna taste love.
7:24 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Over a decade of being number one in Omaha doesn't happen by accident. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book a free estimate for your roof, your windows, your gutters, your siding. They can do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. Bob Williams of Williams Law joins us again in studio to talk about some of the different cases around the nation in sports law that is happening right now. And maybe the most interesting one is the lawsuit going on with Tulane Swimming. And Bob, thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Happy to be here.
I don't think we've done that part yet. Ashley Carollo, a former swimmer at Tulane, was at practice off campus and at an away meet, and she was instructed to essentially treat a yoga mat like the water and was instructed to dive onto it, throwing her back at it. And she claims that she's been dealing with headaches and migraines ever since then. She went to a Tulane doctor, who, this is not a joke, told her, quote, "Your brain's still in there. Just go back to practice," according to the filings with the court, without giving her any clarification what was actually wrong and why the chronic pain's coming back. Ms. Carollo agreed to sign a contract that was labeled a concussion as a concussion form, saying that she would not sue Tulane if she got a concussion. Now, she's claiming that she has a brain injury and spine damage because the yoga mat in question was on top of concrete at this said meet. As far as legal forms and documents go, can you put an umbrella like that over everything? Or just say, hey, this is a concussion, so it's a concussion?
Just so that we're clear, the yoga mat was on the surface of the pool.
The second time. The first time it was on concrete, according to the court documents.
Well, great questions. Yeah, it's an interesting case. There's a number of different issues on this. When I started reading the court's opinion, I perked up and noticed probably 5 or 6 things that really stood out to me. Well, first of all, to answer your question, Jimmy, yeah, I mean, one of the major issues of this is this form that she signed, unilaterally signed. Now, it's a form. Do you guys remember, was it Dazed and Confused? They chased Pink around the whole movie to get him to sign the form about that he wouldn't do certain things during the summer ahead of football practice. Well, this is kind of similar to where this is a unilateral stock form that Tulane, a private university, used and provide to their athletes, specifically to their swimming and diving team, that they would sign, that they would say that they would not sue in case of some type of concussion. Now, I didn't see an example of it. Typically, that's not enforceable anyway. But the reason it's important for this case is because one of the 2 causes of action. So let's get the facts out here for the listeners a little bit. So she eventually sued Tulane University, and basically she sued on 2 different grounds, essentially. One was that there was a contract with the university that was violated pursuant to that piece of paper that she signed. And the second thing was that there was some type of professional negligence or professional malpractice by the team physicians or team doctors for not treating her or getting her the help she needed. And again, a couple of years had passed before she had filed suit on this. Now, in most jurisdictions, including Louisiana, you've got a 1-year statute of limitations to file a lawsuit for medical negligence or medical malpractice. That meaning from the date of the injury or the date that she was put on notice from having known that she was injured to the date that you filed a lawsuit is 1 year. And the interesting part of that is that she was trying to make this argument that time frame, because again, she filed the lawsuit just over 2 years after the incident where she cracked her head on the mat, and which clearly is not within that 1 year window. Well, there is an exception to that 2-year statute, to that 1 year statute of limitations, wherein that time frame could be, to use legal jargon, told or stopped or paused because she wasn't necessarily aware of the impact that the medical or the injury had on her, and that stating essentially that the university had acted in bad faith by not treating her appropriately and not having her seek other medical opinions. Now, that's one of the reasons. And eventually this case went up on appeal, and she was denied financial recovery.
Incredible.
First of all, again, for the medical malpractice, the 1 year, she also argued that there was a 10-year. Now, when you look for a contract, this is in the state of Louisiana specifically, the statute of limitations is a 10-year window. So she's stating that, well, if the first claim failed, there should be the second claim, the breach of contract, because clearly she signed an agreement that was within a 10-year period of time. Well, guess what? The court did not buy that it was actually a valid contract because this document signed by only her put absolutely zero obligations on Tulane University, and therefore did not meet the tenets of what a contract exists under Louisiana law. So they denied it on that basis. So again, she tried to argue that the university acted in bad faith by not providing her this medical treatment, so they didn't toll the statute of limitations on the first piece of her complaint. Again, the appellate court denied this. They basically said that this young woman, this young female athlete who'd gone through all these different injuries and treatment,
who's still dealing with stuff today.
dealing with problems to this day, stated that she did not perform her own due diligence in her own medical care. Now, there could be a further appeal of this case by her.
There should be.
But there's some other things that she did not do. She did not provide any other evidence at trial that there was an additional relationship beyond that contract that she was asserting as a contract. And she also did not offer enough medical information, in my opinion, that may have swayed the court that she had a lack of knowledge of the extent of her injuries.
Does she have further legal recourse to go after Tulane University in this case?
Well, so this case has been on appeal, unless there's some federal question, which I don't think there is, unless this would get appealed up potentially to their state's highest court, that would be her last recourse, unless there's some other cause of action that we've missed in here. Now, when a person sues a university, it does matter whether or not that university is a state university or a private university. There's a very strict set of rules when you're suing a state-run university or a municipality, such as a city or a political subdivision, and those are very rigorous rules you have to follow. In this instance, Tulane has been a private university, so she did sue under valid state statutes in Louisiana court, and unfortunately, the way things shook out did not go in her favor.
Bob Williams, Williams Law, in studio with us, breaking down legal issues facing the sporting world. Not necessarily apples to apples, because this one happened across the pond, but a man in London was unfortunately killed after an ice hockey incident. One of the skates came off the ice, caught him in the throat, and unfortunately lost his life. 6 weeks went by, and then somebody was eventually arrested. The person was involved in the hockey play, but all charges have been dropped. It was deemed an accident. In a situation like this in American courts, when does intent where does that fine line of intent kind of come in?
So if you're looking to assess criminal liability against someone for an on the field or on the court or on the ice event, there would certainly have to be a level of intent to harm the other party.
Sure.
Not necessarily kill or maim them,
Right.
but there is an intent to make what we would say is illegal or illicit contact with that person. And just so happens you accidentally caught him with a skate in the throat. Hey, that liability is on you. In this specific instance, and again, this is across the pond, but they did not find that there was requisite intent for this person to harm the injured party. And they chalked it up basically to just an accident, not even necessarily an act of negligence, which could arguably be enough in America, in the United States, to be a prerequisite for potential criminal liability. For example, in Nebraska, you've got different murder statutes. You've got involuntary manslaughter or manslaughter statutes. For example, if a person is driving a vehicle, and even I've had this case before, you inch through a stop sign but don't fully stop, and you get in an accident with another vehicle, somebody in that other vehicle dies because of your vehicle being out in the roadway. Even for that small infraction, it was a law violation. You could be held to be liable for manslaughter against that other party. That's just a quick aside as to some of the stuff you see that just you can unknowingly and unwittingly have happen.
I'm going to say, in Petgrave's case, do you think it helped that Victor Borkung, one of Johnson's teammates in this case, was speaking with the Swedish newspaper, and he said there really isn't a chance that it was deliberate, and that he could see immediately that Johnson was traumatized, and that Petgrave was completely and utterly traumatized by the incident and actually just left his own team as a result during all of this?
Certainly it plays a factor. I think what you're talking about is whether or not the charging authorities have discretion to what degree they have discretion over what cases are charged criminally in court. And clearly the charging authority in that jurisdiction took into account, or at least it appears to have taken into account, the coaches, the other spectators, the people that witnessed this, the remorse that was conveyed to them, at least that was observed, that was conveyed to them. And it obviously did play a factor, although this did take quite a bit of time to investigate. I think he was arrested and booked into jail several times under an anonymous name until this finally shook out, if I'm not mistaken.
The one thing that I couldn't help but continue thinking about this to make this relevant to American sports was the Damar Hamlin situation. Now, obviously, there's intent there to, enforce enough force that you knock somebody down or get them off the block or whatever. Thankfully, Damar Hamlin's still with us and didn't die. Could there have been a lawsuit against the player that hit him, or would that be on the NFL? How does that work?
Oh, yeah, there certainly could be a lawsuit. Whether or not it would have any merit is really the question, right? And I think in that scenario, you're actually talking about a full contact sport. There's inherent risk, assumed risk, which we've talked about before. I think unless there was an equipment malfunction, which you could say there could be some potential civil liability on the NFL, which I don't think that's the case. As far as criminal liability goes, the person hitting him would have to be operating so far outside of the norms of the game. If they had brass knuckles and hit him, square in the chest, it was some crazy set of events that was clearly outside the rules of the game, then yes, that could qualify for criminal liability. But no, I don't think there's any chance in heck that would be a criminal act.
Criminal, civil, personal. Bob Williams of Williams Law would be happy to help you out today if you were facing litigation. Head over to WilliamsLawLLC.com tonight. They will walk you through the process, explain your rights, and give you a free, no obligation legal consultation tonight. My friend, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then, but we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back. Catch up with John Walker from the Omaha World Herald. Creighton has dominated the transfer portal. We'll get John Walker's thoughts when we come back. 1620 The Zone.
But don't kill me, go make me. Shoot for the stars, no safety. And now I see clearly HD.
If there's one place that I go hard at, it's every single one of Pepper Jack's 10 great local locations. Hey everyone, it's Dan Campanen here to remind you once again that the best thing on Pepper Jack's menu, in my personal opinion, and only in my personal opinion, is the steak gunner Philly with all the vegetables, including some jalapeno juice to make it extra spicy. So if you want to be just like your boy, Dan Campanen, and get big and strong and eat some Pepper Jacks, head up one of their 10 local locations tonight.
$7:41 on a Tuesday night edition of the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Get a free estimate for your windows, your roof, your gutters, your siding. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com. Get that free estimate tonight. John Walker from the Omaha World Herald now joins us over the phone. Mr. Walker, good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello. I'm good, man. How are you?
Not doing as well as the Creighton Blue Jays, that's for sure. They're absolutely dominating the transfer portal right now. Why have they been so successful, in your opinion, in the acquisitions that they've made?
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of transfers are looking for is kind of the relationship aspect of it. Like they want somewhere to call home. So much of recruiting now, whether that's high school or in the portal, is transactional. You know, whether we like it or not, that's the way it is. That's the game now. You know, you have kids signing contracts, financial aid offers, instead of letters of intent. Like that's the point we're at. And Creighton really, you know, no matter who you talk to, Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, Nick Graves, Blake Harper, Austin Swartz, they've all kind of said that they had an immediate connection to Greg McDermott and his staff and the players who are already there. So that's a really big thing. And then you know, we'd be fools to sit here and think that Creighton hasn't dumped adequate resources into the program, knowing that time is officially ticking on the Greg McDermott era. So both of those things are probably you know, what's helped Creighton get 5 portal pieces, you know, through the first month of the offseason.
John, Dan here. Jimmy actually let me onto the correct side of the desk tonight.
We all make mistakes.
Let's go.
Yes. And I have kind of a off the beaten path question for you.
Please.
The makeup of this team with 2 seniors, 3 juniors, and 6 sophomores, and not to mention 2 freshmen. How do you think that'll play into Greg McDermott's strategy this year when kind of assembling his on the court lineup?
Yeah, and I'm not saying this in like a like ignorant way. I don't think it matters. Like I don't think he'll care.
That's a good point.
Because the fact of the matter is he wants to win. Like he's going to do it the right way, sure, but he doesn't want to. Like he wants to go out how he envisions his last few seasons, right? Like, so I don't think it matters. I don't think he cares whether you're a sophomore or whether you're a freshman, whether that's Hudson Greer or Alexa Dimitrievich. I don't think he cares if you're if you're Owen or let's see, our 1-year guys are going to be Nick Graves and Josh Dix.
Yep.
I don't think he cares. I genuinely think that on this thoroughly talented roster that still has 1 spot open, I think the best players are going to play because there has been so much turnover that I don't know. And I'm, again, not saying this maliciously. I don't know if there's a lot of loyalty to guys as it pertains to the starting lineup.
Good point.
And that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. The only surefire returner from last season is Jackson McAndrew. So I don't think it matters. Is a long meandering way to say that. I think that it's good that the composition is what it is because much like the Allen Huss plan, Creighton is set for the future. Because that's 8 underclassmen on this year's roster.
Yep.
So they're going to be set for the future. And I think that will help this season as well. Just because of the thorough talent. Like they're going to breed competition on that team. No matter if that's Owen Freeman or if that's Josh Townley Thomas.
Do you say that you only include Jackson McAndrew into that equation and not a guy in Jason Green who gave you a ton defensively but was kind of limited offensively a year ago because of his offensive limitations at the time last year?
No, I personally I wrote this in a mailbag last week. My starting lineup right now would be Graves and I'm talking about post Blake Harper acquisition.
Okay.
My opening night lineup right now on April 29th would be Graves, Dix, Green, McAndrew, Freeman. Because I understand that I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. I know that there's no lineup loyalty at the moment. But Greg McDermott really, really, really values experience in his system. And that is simply something that a guy like Blake Harper will not have off the bat, obviously.
Sure.
Certainly not as much as Jason Green's had over the last couple of seasons.
Well, and to steal some words out of a really smart Omaha World Herald columnist from earlier today, it seems like Jason Green.
We do love Tom Chattel on the show.
Yeah, it seems like Jason Green spent a lot of last summer working on his 3-point shot, and that's not going to change this summer. I don't know where I heard that.
No.
It was some guy who's driving right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna have to try and figure out who that was.
Hey,
but yeah, he's gonna do that. I think. No, I don't really think it's an indictment of Jason Green. I'm just not sure what the exact approach is going to be with this roster at the very start of the season, because there are so many uncertainties. But again, I know there's competition on the wings. I understand that. So that's why I didn't include Jason Green. But if I was Greg McDermott, which I'm not, Jason Green would be my opening night 3, just because of the versatility he brings.
In completely unrelated news, John Walker from the Omaha World Herald joins us on the After Hours Lounge. Settle the point guard rotation for me. How do you figure that room is going to kind of work itself out?
Yeah, Nick Graves is the guy, for sure. And I think Ty Davis is going to have an increased role.
I'm with you
as it pertains to the 1. But Fedor Zugic is going to have the ball in his hands, right? That's just going to happen. And Josh Dix is going to have the ball in his hands. So you'll have a couple of different guys initiate. But the 1 rotation, I think it goes. I would say Graves is the starter. Duh.
Yeah.
Fedor is probably, I don't know if you'd even classify him as the 1, but I could see him playing the point or initiating the offense with like the second unit. Like, I think Fedor Zugic is in line to be Big East 6th Man of the year. And I think he could just dominate as one of the first players off the bench. And then I think Ty Davis probably plays somewhere in the ballpark of 10 minutes a game, which, again, would be a vastly increased role from sitting behind Stephen Ashworth this past season. So that's kind of what I think happens at the 1.
Does that mean you think that there's a very, very strong case that Fedor Zugic is back at Creighton next season?
Yeah. I know there's been some smoke around his eligibility and whatnot. I'm not concerned about that at this moment. I personally have not heard anything that would suggest that he's not eligible or won't be back. And the early entrant list for the NBA draft came out today, and he was not one of the 20-something international players who declared early.
Were you on the list?
Was I on the list?
Yes.
I can't say.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't let the folks in the World Herald look for other work.
Yeah, I expect Fedor back in here on April 29th. Again, I haven't heard anything that would legitimate that would suggest that his eligibility for next season is in serious jeopardy.
John, the joke has been made a lot around the water cooler recently around here that we're going to put Godfathers out of business next year because the 75 point threshold is going to be really easy to hit. How do you envision this Creighton team of 2025 spreading the ball around?
Oh, I think it's good. There will be like ungodly amounts of ball movement. There should be. Like this is the team to do it.
I'll say there better be.
Yeah. And that's just like the principle of Greg McDermott's system. That's what you heard Jemiah Neal say throughout the season. Like he told me at the end of the year, like the biggest difference for him was that previously at Arizona State, he was in a system where he had to create, and at Creighton, he was in a system that created for him. And they do that because you hear Greg McDermott say all the time, we just want to turn a good shot into a great shot. Make or miss, we want to take great shots. And so that's like Greg McDermott's system 101. That's first day of practice stuff. And so, yeah, I would be shocked if this Creighton team next year is not like what we'll have 300 something teams. If they're not like top 30 in assists, I would be shocked.
John, this is the good old intern, Brody Heidemann, avid Twitter enjoyer. You're currently the 1 seed in the Cray Takes, I want to say burner bracket. I don't know what you really call it. How you feeling about your chances of winning against all these? I mean, I'd say John Bishop is a pretty big 16-20 zone guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm kind of on the we talked about the less taken path earlier, the less beaten path. I'm beating the path right now.
For sure.
I'm on the beaten path. Because I got Jacob from Hurrdat right now.
Yep.
And that's a tough matchup. That's a really tough matchup.
You're winning 65 to 35 right now, by the way.
Blowing them out.
Okay. So, who you guys have the bracket? Who would I get in the next one?
There's a very good chance you're going to be playing Rob Anderson. So.
I think right now it's 53% to Pretty Bird.
Well.
Okay. See, those are obviously Titans in their own regard. And then I think that would, in theory, if we go chalk, set up a matchup with Karen, mother of two, Karen McGee, in the Final Four.
Are you worried about your reputation if you don't win this tournament?
Dude, I'll be in shambles.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
We'll make sure we console you.
Yeah, people will still read the World Herald, I hope, when the season rolls around. So I'll be okay.
You can always read John Walker's work at omaha.com, as well as by buying a newspaper and picking it up as well. You can follow him on Twitter and go vote for him at Buy John Walker as well. John, we appreciate it, man. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, guys.
That is John Walker. Make sure you subscribe to omaha.com today. We're going to go and wrap up the show here. We appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you to everybody that punched in for the night shift tonight. Thank you to Bob Williams and John Walker for joining us as well. If you missed any of the show, check it out at soundcloud.com/after-hours1620. Our whole show tonight was brought to you by our friends at Paul Davis Restoration. If you're dealing with seasonal storm problems, maybe you're a part of the Fremont iteration that got hit with the hail a couple of weeks ago and you just haven't been able to get around to finding somebody to restore your home to the way it was beforehand, head over to pauldavis.com or call 402-553-0373 and work with a local reputable company like Paul Davis tonight. For Brody Heidemann, Dan Campen, and I've been Jimmy Allen. Happy National Shrimp Scampi Day, everybody.
Bucatini with clams.